We'll start off taking a look at election procedures, INEC's guideline. If you look through the dailies some days ago, you may have come across that story where they say, is it 1991 political parties rejecting INEC guidelines. So now we're going to go ahead and find out why. As you can see, they've got different steps concerning the election procedure, which this is step 1. As you may read, upon arrival at the polling unit, you have to join the queue and present yourself to INEC official at the polling unit. It goes on and on. So what we'll do is we've got some persons who are here today to come and take us through their objections. Why are they objecting to some of these recommendations? There's so many of them, actually. But let's get to our guests now. We've got Right Honorable Jeff Ojinka, who is the Deputy National Chairman of Intra-Party Advisory Committee and the National Chairman of Coalition for Change. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. We've got Chief Godson Okoye, the National Chairman, UDP, and National Secretary, Coalition for New Nigeria, also in Abuja. And then we've got Mr. Festus Okoye, he's a National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee for INEC. Don't forget, he's also a lawyer. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today on the program. Before I get to...
thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Okoye, before I get to you, we'll get to hear from the gentleman.
Which of the Okoyes are you talking about? Apparently, there are 2 of them here.
Yeah, just hang on. We'll get to that. But before I get to you, Mr. Okoye of INEC, I'll need to hear from the 2 gentlemen who say that they've got some reservations about your procedure, INEC's guidelines. Now, let me start with Chief Godson Okoye on this particular one. Why or what's your grounds about the guidelines that INEC has come up with?
Yeah, thank you very much for having us in this program. The Okoye that is talking is a former presidential candidate and the national chairman of UDP. Thanks very much for this opportunity. And well, we will start by commending INEC for some good job they've done, but there are also a whole lot of problems we already have done. And if left unchecked, if left unamended, will mar the 2019 election. And that's why we, as stakeholders, and of course, as recognized by law and as agreed to by the chairman of INEC, we are major stakeholders in this game, and we should be listened to. First, on page 2 of the manual that they give, you have some powers to INEC, or assumption of powers that they can create voting points and which will be regarded as polling units. Now, if you do that, and if it's unchecked, and so many secret polling points appear different places, of course, the credibility of the election is already in question. Then you have issues on pages 6 and 7, which precisely say that if a voter appears at a place and is a PVC, does not recognize him, or brings up the picture of another person, he should fill a form.
Yeah, Mr. Okoye, pardon me, let me just say that we'll, as much as we can, look at a number of these provisions, but we'll take them one after the other. You have highlighted Section 3. I believe you're talking about subsections B, C, and D of INEC's guidelines concerning the voting points and the voting point settlement. Yes. So we'll note that because we'll also be getting INEC's response to explain those step by step as we progress, hoping that it will make sense to our viewers. But Dr. Ojinka, let me get your view on this particular matter. Do you also, or does your party also disagree with the voting point settlement as highlighted in Section 3 by Chief Okoye?
Yeah, we do. And in addition to that, there are other concerns, especially the mode of election. That is Section 8 of the guideline. That has to do with the continuous accreditation and voting system, CAVS, that INEC have tried in the off-season elections that they have conducted. We are of the view that we should, since we are using the 2015 Electoral Act, that we should use the same system we used in the 2015 election. That is a different time for accreditation and a different time for voting, so that we'll be in position to know actually the number of people accredited before we go into voting. And this view is heightened as a result of the existing political climate. It was heightened as a result of the inability of the president to assent to the Electoral Act. If the Electoral Act had been assented to, all these apprehensions wouldn't have arisen. The non-assent to the Electoral Act has heightened a lot of anxiety that a lot of manipulations are likely going to happen. So that's why majority of the parties are requesting that we revert to that 2015, in as much as every coin has two sides. There are shortcomings and there are benefits that will accrue, but on the overall, we see that the benefits that will accrue to our separating accreditation from voting will outweigh the short gain that we might likely gain from the new process of CAVs by actually saying that it will save time. So we are of the view that the INEC as an independent, as a neutral arbiter, we look at these two sides. There are people that support, there are some political parties, but they are in very insignificant minority that support INEC on CAVs, and a greater majority of the parties that we have interfaced with support the separation of accreditation and that of voting as a way to ensure that we have a credible process this time, because we are in a very serious political climate now that the neutrality of the security agencies cannot be guaranteed because of experiences of the previous elections.
Okay,
and
Dr. Jinika, just a minute.
Non-assent to the Electoral Act.
Yeah, Dr. Jinika, as I also stated, we'll take them one after the other. So the security bit, there are also issues, it's also in this particular act, so we'll hope to get there as we progress. But let me bring in Mr. Okoye now of INEC. Two concerns for a start, Section 3 and 8. So do you want to start with 3 or 8, where it has to do with the CAVs?
No, I think that we should begin from the beginning. And the beginning is that one, the Independent National Electoral Commission does not act unilaterally, but consults the critical stakeholders in the electoral process before taking critical or major decisions. Secondly, the critical stakeholders and the major political parties must recognize that what the law obligates the Independent National Electoral Commission to do is to consult, but that ultimately the decision as to what becomes of regulations, guidelines, and manuals is the exclusive responsibility of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Section 153 of the Electoral Act obligates the Commission to issue regulations, issue guidelines, and issue manuals that will regulate the conduct of elections. The Independent National Electoral Commission is the regulator of political parties. But as a regulator, we are obligated to listen to the concerns and suggestions of political parties. But political parties cannot turn around and claim that we must issue the regulations that they suggest. No, we can consult them, we can listen to them, we can take on board their suggestions, but ultimately, we reserve the exclusive right and exclusive power and exclusive authority to issue regulations, issue guidelines, and issue manuals for the conduct of elections.
Okay, Mr. Okoye,